So everybody's in a panic about gas prices, and they're talking about drilling over offshore oil. They're talking about drilling offshore oil and building a nuclear power plant a week for the next 20 years and that sort of thing. But and nobody's talking about the answer that's right here. You know, this is a rooftop solar system, and today it's produced already. You know, it's not quite even peak hours yet, but already it's produced 16.6 kilowatt hours. Now that's enough. That's enough energy, you know, of course, to fill up these batteries. So that 16.6 kilowatt hours is enough to take this small SUV here, which is entirely powered by electric, more than 60 miles, 4 miles per kilowatt hour. Even though it's still daytime and the solar system is still producing energy, you know, we've already made more than twice the daily commute. You know, this car is real. It's here, and there's no reason why it couldn't be produced. I stopped here. This is like on the next street, and all these gasoline cars around here, and there's this one electric car, because there's a house with the solar system. This is the Slazer residence in Seal Beach, and you know, there's a solar system, and that's all they need to power a car like this. You know, this is what you need to power your car. And there's a real solution. You know, they had an electric car. So, you know, we're not even dealing with these issues. We're not at all talking about, you know, building electric cars. And that's what these politicians should be doing if they were serious about solving the problem of oil addiction and the so-called energy crisis. The Prius there, for instance, you know, you'd have to get that able to plug in, and there's lots of people trying to make plug-in kits for Priuses, but there's nothing like making, you know, a plug-in car like this. So we're basically doing a daily commute, you know, maybe 30 miles, and why can't all these cars be electric? This car that I'm driving in is real. I mean, there's nothing stopping them going into production with it. You know, that you could say it's too expensive, $40,000 maybe, or even more, but why not give people a chance to buy it? You know, it really should only be $15,000 because it doesn't have an engine and all that other stuff in it. It only has batteries and a motor and a bunch of electronics, stuff like that. So here's an irony. You know, these are electric charging stations here, and here we have an electric vehicle charging spot. But these are the large paddles. You know, these are the large paddle magnet chargers, and they don't fit. You know, they just don't fit in the small paddle socket. So, you know, if you tried to charge them, it wouldn't work. So you imagine for a car that didn't really exist for very long. I mean, the most you could say is that the electric car was around for maybe 10 years. They had so many charging standards. It was almost as if they tried. It's almost as if they tried to make it impossible. You know, when a plug would do, they had this thing sitting here, in which, you know, was only compatible with a small proportion of the very small electric cars. So they didn't have any standards, and they didn't try to make it easy. You know, if this was a matter of just disinterested, curiosity or humor, you know, it wouldn't be a big thing. You know, okay, we made just a couple thousand electric cars. They hunted down and crushed almost every one of them, except for Toyota, which willingly sold 300 of them to the general public and left the rest out in fleet usage. So, and there were all these complicated charging standards that weren't really compatible. If this were just an intellectual exercise, it'd be one thing, but you know, we're talking about now reinstituting offshore drilling, and you know, $5 gasoline, and loss of national security, and it's not a joke. It's not a joke at all, and it's not an intellectual exercise. You know, we should be making these electric cars again, and we should be allowing people to buy them. The auto companies say quite rightly that they don't want to be the only ones making an electric car, and that they don't want to lose any money on the electric cars because they're hurting enough as it is. But this is exactly the place where government needs to step in as the fair broker and force all the car companies to produce an electric car at a reasonable price. So we know it's possible. It's just a matter of getting them back into production. We have examples of electric cars that are working fine 6, 7, 8 years after they were produced. They're still running great on the original battery pack. Because you can't buy any more of the battery pack, unfortunately. So government needs to step in and say, if you want to sell cars in America, you have to sell a plug-in all-electric car or a plug-in electric car with a range extender of 100 miles for $25,000. And that's a reasonable price. And let the auto companies figure out how to get in under that price point. And if there's too much demand, then that would contradict their previous statement that nobody wants electric cars, number one. Number two, let them then come back to government and say, this was a takings, we need subsidies. But first, let them be forced to produce these electric cars. It's not an issue that's we can really just wait on. It's not an issue that has intellectual interest. It's actually an issue of survival. We need plug-in electric cars, and we need rooftop solar power. We need them now, not waiting years in the future. As I speak, out of the 12 million cars and trucks to be produced and sold in the U.S. today, this year by the major manufacturers, not one is a plug-in car. Yet 5 years ago, there were plug-in Toyota RAV4 EVs for sale. Why not now? Why has government slacked off? Why has government let the oil and auto companies do what they want? We need to put pressure on government. People all over this country need to pressure their representatives, need to pressure the oil companies, and need to pressure the auto companies that we need plug-in cars, and that would then finance rooftop solar power. Maybe not everybody, but those who wish to do it should be allowed to do so. Right now, they cannot.